All right, here we go. This is our 2026 high school girls tennis preview. I'm Devin LaChapelle, the girls tennis coach at Waterville High School and the assistant tennis coach over at Colby College.
And I'm Billy Noble, current head coach at Mount Ararat in Topsom. Also was the assistant for Devin's back in 2021, one season, ended in a state championship for his squad, for our squad.
All right. So first thing we're gonna do before we get into a breakdown of players and teams is just to cover some little, some big changes in the MPA tennis rules going into this season. The big one so far is Sunday play is now an option for tournaments. Previously, Sunday play was not allowed for MPA events, but now if there's rain in the singles or doubles qualifiers or state tournament for singles and doubles, we can now play on Sunday if needed. In the doubles tournament side of things, previously, if you were a doubles player and you managed to qualify for singles, you could still play doubles in the tournament. Now, if you're a doubles player and you qualify for singles, you are no longer eligible for the doubles tournament. Some smaller changes. Booth Bay swaps over from Region 3 for singles qualifying, which is the region we're in, kind of central Maine, mid-coast area. And they swap over to Region 4, which is more of the west. They were previously the only Mountain Valley Conference team to not be in that region. So now those teams are all in the same slot. MCI was in C South for a couple seasons. They're now back in C North. And in terms of ladders, rules have been tightened up a little bit about ladder matches. So now if teams have a lineup that's being played that doesn't align with how their ladder matches have been entered, then they can now forfeit position. So one needs to have beaten two needs to have beaten three needs to have beaten four. If anyone plays out of order, those positions can be forfeited. All right, so the first thing we are going to get into is just we're going to talk about some different players to watch. We kind of split them up by region a little bit. So I'm going to start us off with the South. Always a ton of strong players down in Southern Maine. We've got defending state singles champion Sophia Kirchev out of Falmouth, Phoebe Riley also out of Falmouth, and Sophia Turker also out of Falmouth. A lot of strength down there. Over at Thornton Academy, we've got Lilia Root. At Gorham, we've got Jasmine Rajavova. Yarmouth, we've got Adea Kobaj and Chevrolet Maddie Smith. All right, Billy, what do we have in the South? Sorry, not in the South, in the West.
Yeah, so for the West, players to watch, we have Lydia Garofalo from Marana Cook. Marana Cook, the defending C champion from last year. We have Katie Morgan from Edward Little, Leah Hildebrandt from Marana Cook, Julia Thaler from Marana Cook, and Jade Young from Madison. So a lot of Marana Cook players on that West grouping that probably be pretty dominant again. I assume this season as well.
Yeah,
I know I've seen Lydia, indoors at Augusta, hitting over the winter, getting herself ready and stuff. So, and she has a lot of help down there to get her in season form.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Marana Cook's schedule. They've got an interesting schedule this year, so they'll be battle tested when it comes time for the tournament. Over in Central Maine, Billy, why don't you start us off with the Coney players, and then I'll handle the rest.
All right, sounds good. Two players to watch from Coney. Their first and second singles players, Kira Greger, who will be back after missing pretty much all last year due to an injury, ACL, but she'll be back full strength. Also seen her hitting and looks pretty good, like back in form. And also we have Lila Goldie, played all our season last year, pretty much in Kira's place. Can only imagine that duo at the top two will be pretty strong for the team.
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to playing against that on my end. And Lila had a good run last year to the second round of state singles. Kira's freshman year 2 years ago, she made it to the quarters, and I suspect she's going to be looking to make a push even beyond that.
Mhm.
In also in the central area, a couple of my players in Waterville. I've got Piper Hamilton. She's for the moment slotting up from 2 singles up to 1 singles. My number one graduated. Had a solid season last year at the beginning and the end. Also struggled with the high ankle sprain for the middle part of the year. She's back and healthy, excited, playing well. And my 3 from last year, slotting up to 2, Sadie St. Peter. Also had a really solid season last year. First team all conference, qualified for the singles tournament. Both of them should have a good season in the KVAC. And then we've got Shiho Kawagishi. I'm hoping I said that correctly, from MCI. Very solid player from Japan over at MCI. They've got a few international students this year, so they should have a solid squad. She's a lot of fun to play. I got to watch her play at a little tournament this winter. Very much a creative kind of junk ball player, drives people nuts. So it should be fun. Should be fun for them, less for the people maybe playing her. All right, and then Billy, we got a lot of A North people featured in the Mid Coast, so I'll let you handle those.
Yeah, our list for Mid Coast players to watch are all going to be from 2 teams except for one of them. So the top 3 for Brunswick, Molly Teft, who finished in the state singles tournament last year as the runner-up, had a very strong season last year. We have Ellie Meserve, second singles, and Lila Patient, who I think was like a freshman or sophomore last year. Probably need to get that fact, but yeah. So she'll be one to watch going into this season. So 2 players from Camden, Adelanda Roberts, who played mostly third singles last year for the Camden squad, very solid. And then we have Olive Van Howick. I don't remember how to pronounce that, but yeah, very solid doubles player last year.
Lefty.
I believe they won the state singles or state doubles tournament.
They did.
Yeah, very good at the net. Just overall, very solid game. So she'll be one to watch. And then Devin could probably talk about Georgiana Blake a little bit more in her
class. So Gigi Blake played for Lincoln last year. Started the season playing pretty high in the lineup when London Hunter, who's now graduated, was out with an injury. When she came back, Gigi slotted down to 3. Had a really, really good season. Qualified for state singles out of our region. I'll be interested to see if she ends up in the 1 or 2 slot this year, because they've got a couple other strong players coming in. But yeah, I mean, I expect she'll have a solid season this year. All right, northeast area, we'll say Bangor, down east, that sort of area.
Yep. So yeah, I'll start off with at least one player I know from this list, Caitlin Adams from Hamden. I think she played mostly third singles last year because you had the Kstruski sisters playing 1 and 2, and yep, solid player, consistent. Had one of my players play her last year. Had to move up. It was kind of close game score wise. It wasn't, but she's just a solid player to watch out for this year. Do you want to go through the rest of those ones?
Yeah. And then we've got a lot of strength in this region at some of our smaller B and C schools. Vivian Nemeth from John Baptist had a really nice singles tournament run last year. I think made the round of 16. Has been putting in a lot of time in the off season, playing a lot of tournaments, doing a lot of clinics. I've seen her come to some Colby clinics a couple times. She's looking pretty good. Ariana Crosby out of Piscataquis, also another strong player. Piscataquis made the team state final last year, I believe, losing to Miranda Cook. She had a tight loss to Claire Dwyer in the final there. Beat Claire's teammate Lydia in the singles tournament, I believe. So made at least the second round there. I've also seen her practicing a little bit at Champions lately, so I expect she'll have a good season up there. Kalani Granholm out of MDI. She had some solid wins. They were the 6th seed in the team tournament last year in B North. Pulled an upset over Foxcroft, the 3 seed. She's on the upswing. Very strong cross country runner. So just very athletic all around. I suspect she'll continue doing well. Kennedy Lambert out of Ellsworth. And she, I think, would have likely been Ellsworth's number 2 singles player last year, but unfortunately their number 1, who has now graduated, had, I think, an ACL tear or something similar and was out for the season. She still put together a solid season, plays some tough competition up there, but is looking to probably improve upon that and keep going this year. Kaylee Soderberg, we talked about her brother in Bergen in the boys version of this. Another, again, just solid player, very solid athlete. Should put in some good work up there. And then Emily Garden out of Mattanockhook. Mattanockhook is not a team I normally see from Waterville, but looking through her results, she had a nice season last year. Rate similar level to some of these other names we've mentioned in here. So I suspect she'll have a good season as well. And then up in Aroostook County, a lot of, similar to kind of the Bangor Down East area, a lot of strong singles players out of some of these smaller schools. So Alice Corzaqua out of Presque Isle and Sabine Wells Puckett out of Presque Isle. We played them in the quarterfinals last year. Both those girls are very good players, have put in a lot of time, continue to play lots of tournaments, and I've seen some good results. So, I'd rather not see them in the playoffs, but I suspect if we both make it far enough, that'll be a tough matchup. Same thing for Adriana Deshane and Ella Bennett from Caribou. They were playing 2 and 3 last year, but Maddie Dupre has graduated. They're 1, so those 2, I'm thinking will slot up to 1 and 2. Again, both tough players. I've coached against them a couple times. Always battle. So another pairing that I would love to not see in the playoffs, but we'll see how the cards fall. And then out of Holton, Ryan Perfett. She played a pretty tough schedule last year. Caribou, Presque Isle a couple times each, but looking at her results, she's outside of Presque Isle and Caribou, she's racking up lots of wins, playing those Presque Isle and Caribou players tight. So I would guess she'll be one to qualify out of Aroostook County, out of Region 1 to make the state singles tournament. And then outside of that, we've got a couple of freshmen, and it's kind of hard this early in the season. We don't necessarily know all of the freshmen coming in, but Chris Cole, the assistant boys coach over at Thornton Academy, has told me they've got a girl there, Emily Winkler, who they suspect will be quite strong. So my team will scrimmage them in. Actually, your team, Billy, too. We'll see them in a couple weeks, so we'll see how that looks. And then Ruby Glenn for Lincoln Academy. She's strong player from the results I've seen. Never seen her play personally, but there's been a lot of strong players coming out of the Mid Coast as of late, and I saw she has just been added to the Lincoln Academy roster, so I suspect she'll be one to make a push this season to qualify for state singles. All right, so on to more general team stuff. Billy, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about how the Mount Ararat girls are looking this season.
Yeah, so the squad is even bigger than last year. We had 18, or we had 16 last year. This year we have 18 on the team, which is, that's pretty good numbers wise. And last year my team had 6 seniors who have all moved on, graduated. So only one player that was in the varsity lineup consistently last season. Her name's Sammy Bell. Expect to be right there in the singles lineup this season. So there's a lot of new players, but we have a couple players in who played a lot of exhibition matches last year, and we have actually a couple freshmen who are making a push, for some doubles action. And actually, before this podcast video call, mentioning to Devin that a sister of old or former Mount Ararat players joined the team in her senior year, so never been on the team before, but left the track team, decided to do tennis, and now is pushing to play singles this year, which is pretty awesome. Just kind of a natural athlete, and she just picked up the racket and just got the hang of getting the ball in. So she'll be, I think, when she plays some of the singles players out there this season, probably is going to frustrate just because she can get a lot of balls back. So it'll be fun to see what her ceiling is this season, and really what everyone else is, because I think there's a lot of fresh talent to mold.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams have graduated a lot too, so
Yeah.
a lot of opportunity to pick up some wins with other teams kind of in a similar boat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'll talk about my team a little bit over in Waterville. I graduated my top player, Fatima, from last year, which is always tough to lose your top player. Last year we finished in the semifinals as the 4 seed. We lost to number 1 Old Town. Had a good run with a young team. This year, my 2 and 3 from we're still early with our ladder matches, but my 2 returning singles players are moving up, and I've got probably 3, maybe 4 players all battling for that number 3 spot. I'm fortunate where I have a lot of doubles experience coming back. I've got one team that qualified for the state doubles tournament last year, made it through another round after qualifying. So I'm excited there. B North is always a little bit tricky because we don't always get to see a lot of those B North schools. Like I said, Caribou and Presque Isle are always tough, but not teams we really see until crunch time in the playoffs. But I'm excited. I think I could have, 1 or 2 make a push for state singles qualifying, maybe a doubles team qualify as well. But we're in pretty good shape. Numbers wise, I'm at, I think, 22 right now. Got a lot of new kids too. I've got a very, very athletic freshman group coming in. Hasn't played much tennis, but very excited to play. And I think we're going to be just improving throughout the season. So it should be fun.
Yeah, and just to say about some of the new players that we have, I think is interesting to see how fast they've picked up in just a week. Kind of the pointers and drills that I've taught them, very basic stuff, and kind of picking up quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I think, really pushing some of our older players to like, whoa, like I gotta lock in and keep pushing myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been pretty lucky. Last week I was outside 3 out of 5 days for practice. Last season at this time, I think I had 1 outdoor practice, and I think you down a little further south. Were you outside every day or just with
We've been outside
schedule?
every day. Yesterday, well, me and the boys coach, we decided, yeah, it's too wet out. Didn't really dry out at all from the morning. So some of the girls wanted to practice this morning, so we did that this morning. We had about 8 of us out there, so that was pretty good to get a little more individualized, hitting.
Nice.
That was fun. So yeah, it's good to see a lot of the players wanting to play. Um, Now we got a stretch of practices right before our first preseason match, but yeah, we'll probably talk about that in a little
Yeah.
bit.
All right. Let's move on to teams to watch. I'll start you off with A North
Yeah,
and take it away.
yeah. So three teams: Brunswick, Camden, Edward Little. Um, I'm going to start with Brunswick. Um, last season they had very strong team. I think can't remember who they lost to. I think it might have been both times to Camden last year.
Yeah.
Because Camden eventually went on to the state state final for the Class A group. But yeah, Brunswick. I know that for my team, it's unfortunate for my team that three of the players from last year, the top three, are returning again this season. So yeah, I've let them know what they're in for. They're going to obviously be very, very strong. For doubles, I think they've lost a couple players from last year, so it'll be kind of a mystery to see what Josh's double squad's going to look like. But I assume they're probably going to be pretty solid. They all play pretty well.
They're
Uh,
usually very deep.
yep. So yeah, they're going to be right there at the top again this season again. And then going to Camden, who won the Class A North last year with a very deep squad, um, but yeah, lost. I think their top two, Hattie and Charlotte, or
Yeah.
so
Both have
Atalanta will
graduated.
probably be moving right there to first singles. And she can whack the ball like any of them. I've seen her out there. Very strong ball striker. So it'll see how she does against those other number ones this season, to see if she's right there with with Molly and actually can't really think of any other number ones that will be up there with even Molly. But yeah, it'll be good to see them. And then so kind of a third team I wanted to talk about. Oh, I should mention Olive also playing,
Yeah.
and this probably in the singles roster
Yeah.
for Camden. So
And even though she was doubles last year, we didn't have the new doubles rule in place, so
yeah,
she actually qualified for state singles as
right,
well.
yeah,
So even though she's, you know, was a doubles player last year, she's coming in with a lot of singles experience.
yeah,
So she'll be ready to go.
yeah, yep. So Lana's crew out there is going to be
They're going to be
always tough.
tough.
Um, and yeah, I just wanted to bring up our first, just to feature our first regular season matches for Mount Era. It's actually Edward Little, and interestingly, there's going to be a couple of new players from coming from St. Dom's. Just taking a look at their UTR page already, just because we're playing them first. Katie Morgan's expected to be, back in the number one spot. We played them once last year. My number one, Lydia Branson, lost to her 3 sets. Took the first set, and then next 2 sets, Katie kind of regrouped, made it very tough. Just became kind of a wall in those last 2 sets, and came
It's
back
a
and won.
veteran move.
Yep. And then yeah, so I wanted to feature a new player on the roster that I thought was interesting is Kendall Gravel. Played number one last year for St. Dom's, but now looks like on the new roster she'll probably be two or three. But yeah, we'll see if where that all kind of sorts out. So I think
Yeah.
we do actually play them twice this season. So
Ooh, nice.
hopefully there'll be competitive matches. We took them 3-2 last year, so it was close.
Nice. And they have a new coach, Coach Andrew.
Oh
And
yeah,
Andrew was previously the St. Dom's coach, so there's some continuity there. And I think that'll be good. He's always does a good job. We'll see them, and my team will see him in the preseason. So I'll be interested to see what he does with that combined squad. But I expect them to be even a little stronger than last year.
Yep, and then you'll let me know how they do.
Of course, of course. All right, moving on to B North. B North is pretty open. I already mentioned my team. I think we're a contender in B North, but we're a contender in a field of a lot of contenders. Up in Rustic County, I already mentioned several players from up in that area, but Caribou always tough. Longtime coach John Habeb stepped down this year, so they will have a new coach, but they return two of their singles players who are strong. They return their second doubles, and when you have a really good shot at winning those top two slots, it makes you a hard team to beat no matter who you're playing. Presque Isle again returns their 1 and 2, almost a guaranteed 2 points for them last year too. When we played them in the playoffs, we beat them 3-2. I think in fact they returned all 3 of their singles players. They also have a new coach, so some changes up there. I suspect that if they have anyone coming in and can sneak a third singles or a doubles point anywhere, they will be very, very formidable, and could make a run. MDI, we talked about their number 1, Kalani Granholm, who's coming back after a strong season. They're always a very deep team, very tough team. Coach Dan Granholm always does a really good job with them, coaches both the boys and the girls. A team we played tight 4 years ago in the B North finals, took them 3-2, but it was a battle. It always is. And they're a team that generally improves over the course of the season. So last year they lost twice to Foxcroft Academy, finished number 6, and then came back in the playoffs, took out Foxcroft and pushed Caribou really hard in the semis. So a team I'm going to be watching, looking out for. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Ellsworth, who of course returns Kennedy Lambert, but they also return a lot of other players. This is another team that is just going to be deep. And I do generally think in Class B, especially in B North, it tends to be a lot more about depth than necessarily having the best player at the top. So could go many ways. I don't know that I could pick very well which team's going to come out of B North, but it should be a lot of fun matches, a lot of good battles, and I'd like to see us come out of there, but we'll see what happens. C North is I'm not as familiar with C North. We don't get to play those schools too often. We were supposed to play Orono last year. Unfortunately, Maine weather does not like to cooperate in April, but I suspect Orono will be a contender. They lost in the C North finals last year, return quite a few players. Mattanacook looks solid, as does Washington Academy and Piscataquis. All 4 of those teams with I guess 3 of those teams with players to watch that we mentioned, but all generally teams with good depth, and most of them have made. These are all teams that have made a regional semi-final or a state final in the past 3 or 4 seasons. So C North is another region I think is pretty open. Moving down to A South, the contenders for the girls are generally the same as the contenders for the boys in A South. So Falmouth, they've got 3 of the best girls players in the state. Until someone proves otherwise, I imagine they're the favorite to take the team title. Always very, very tough. Thornton, another strong team. Lilia Root returns from last year. This is her senior year. And with Emily Winkler coming in, they potentially have a nice 1-2 punch up at the top of the lineup. Chevreuse, another deep team. I think they finished last year number 5 or number 6, but pulled an upset against Gorham and made at least the semis. They're always very, very deep, tough team. Maddie Smith likely to be up in the top spot again. But all three of those teams are tough. But I would say Falmouth is still going to be the favorite unless something changes. B South, we got kind of an interesting look at B South. I'd say B South is going to be maybe the toughest region to come out of outside of A South. We've got Coney with Kira Gregor returning after her ACL tear. She'll, against a lot of teams, will be essentially a free point. And with Lila Goldie slotting down to 2, they should have a good chance against any team. I also know they've had a decent number of their players who are putting in a lot of work at KVTA, ACOPI, and Augusta. So we play them in the regular season. I imagine it'll go, it'll be close either way. But they're going to be battling in the B South playoffs. Also, out of the KVAC, Lincoln Academy graduated 3 of their top 4 from last year, but have brought in a couple of strong freshmen. They returned Gigi Blake, so they should contend. Out of the Western Maine Conference, Yarmouth, always tough. They returned their 1 and 2 from last year, and at least a couple of their doubles players and their number 1 doubles last year qualified for the state tournament and might have made the quarterfinals. I'd have to double check, but I think they made the second round. They're always tough, and they will actually be playing a couple of A North teams. I think they're playing both Camden and Brunswick, so they should be battle tested as they get into the playoffs. And then last one, York. Very far south. They're just always they're always a contender, always deep. I don't know that they have any, powerhouse singles players like Coney does, like Falmouth does, but just a good all around team that'll be fighting for a spot in B South. And then C South, we'll finish off with C South. So Billy, you already have talked about Marana Cook looking imposing, defending champs, return their entire singles lineup, won in very dominant fashion in both the C South finals and then in the C State finals. I think they won against NYA 4-1 and then against Piscataquis 5-0. So in my eyes, they're the favorite. They're also very, very deep. Coach Lou does a good job with the doubles. I think they graduated maybe 1 or 2 doubles kids. I honestly don't think it's even going to matter because they always have new kids coming in. They've got a strong program over there, strong summer program. Lots of kids hitting it ACOPI all the time. So they'll be good. Madison, another Mountain Valley Conference team along with Marana Cook. Coach Josh, I unfortunately, this is on me. I was a little too late to get in touch with him. I was hoping he would be on with us, but that's my bad for texting him too late. He should have a strong team, especially in the singles. He returns his 1 and 2 from last year. He also picks up an exchange student who's been quite solid for him. I've seen all 3 of them play throughout the winter at Champions. Little bit inexperienced at doubles, but when you have 3 potential points available at singles, you're really in any match. So they're likely a top 4 C South team, and probably second in the Mountain Valley Conference, right behind Marana Cook. Down further south, Waynfleet, another team that is always super, super deep. They had a team last year qualify for state doubles, just always in the mix. NYA similarly lost to They had a really nice regular season last year. They played all those B South Western Maine Conference teams: Yarmouth, Cape, Greeley, and ended up going 12-0 before ultimately falling to Maranacook in the final. But they return quite a few of their players, so they should be battling. That I do think with those teams will likely be semifinalists, but never know how the seeding will turn out. Never know who will pull an upset. All right, so moving right along, preseason matches to watch. I'm a big fan of scheduling a lot of preseason matches just to toughen up the team and kind of see where everyone is, and just it's fun. Who doesn't want to play more tennis? So Billy, I'll let you start with a couple preseason matches your team is involved with.
Yeah, so we kick things off next Friday against Erskine Academy. It's going to be actually indoors in Augusta, so neutral site location. I think that'll be good for both squads to be playing indoors. To get the season started. To see what their tennis looks like. Without having to deal with cold or wind. But it's Maine, so they're going to have to deal with that at some point. But to start off the season inside will be good. And Erskine, there's just on a preliminary scouting report with connections with the team. I think it's going to be kind of similar in experience and how the team is built. A lot of unknowns, a lot of athletes who have played other sports. So it'll be interesting, I think, for both of our squads to see how we match up and kind of see where we kind of line up just early on. And then that next Monday, right after, we're playing Morse at home. Team we played last year, actually preseason, and I think we won 4-1. I think they were pretty solid last season. Singles lineup was pretty solid. It was a good win for our team last year. It looks like on their roster, it looks like a lot of players are similar to the roster from last year. So I see a Harper Stenstra is back on the roster, the sophomore. She's pretty solid. I think she beat one of my doubles players in singles qualifier last year. Actually, they played in the preseason singles match and then in the singles qualifier again. Unfortunately for my team, Harper got the best of her twice. So, early season matchups, I think, be good for our team and for all the squads. But it'll be just fun to be out there again.
Nice. And Billy, I know you don't have a ton of time, so I'll try to be efficient with mine. But do appreciate the insight.
Yep.
So other matches to be keeping an eye out for: Brunswick versus Coney. That's going to be inside at A copy. Kira Gregor versus Molly Teft should be a really good match. I suspect those two will both be, looking to get some experience for a deep singles tournament run. Waterville, we will take on Camden and Scarborough. We like to play some of those A teams. Scarborough, very, very deep always, so that should be fun. Camden with the strong 1 and 2 returning with singles experience in the 1 and 2 slots, so that should be fun as well. We'll play them inside at the Midcoast Rec Center in Rockport, along with Lincoln Academy, so that's always really fun. In a similar sense, Lincoln is going to play Camden at that same day. We're all playing each other in a little kind of mini tournament. Both teams with some strong singles players, so it should be fun. Lincoln always plays Brunswick. So again, just another team, another couple of teams with strength at the top, depth all the way through. So should be cool. And then we've got a couple tournaments, some multi-team tournaments we're doing this year. I'm hosting a couple. We're doing the Cougar Cup out at Mount Blue, so that'll be Mount Blue, Edward Little, Madison, and Waterville. We're going to do like little mini brackets and get everyone a bunch of experience. And then we've got the Capital City Classic out at the Bucher Courts in Augusta. So that's going to be Coney, Waterville, Mount Ararat, Thornton Academy, and Brunswick. So a lot of singles strength in that tournament, especially with Coney, Thornton, and Brunswick being there. Could be a preview of some late stage singles tournament matchups. And then moving right along, we've got regular season matches to watch. I'll give mine first, and then I'll let Billy give his. So with my own team, we take on Coney, always tough. Lincoln Academy, MCI, all teams that should be very strong in the singles positions. A lot of veteran players there. So top of the KVAC looks strong in Class B and C this year. Out of the North, we've got Caribou and Presque Isle. I expect that'll be a battle, especially at the 1 and 2 singles positions. But that could be a preview of a potential B North final or B North semifinal. I expect both teams to put together good seasons. Over in Class C, Piscataquis and Mattanock will face off in the regular season. A couple teams coming off of good seasons last year. Should be good this year. Down south, we're going to be looking at Thornton versus Cheverus, Yarmouth versus York. We got Maranacook versus Madison. And then some kind of non-traditional matches. We're going out of conference, but still in C South. Maranacook is taking on North Yarmouth Academy and Waynfleet this year. So those should both be some good matches. All teams that made the semifinals last year. And another crossover across conferences, but still in division. Lincoln Academy is going to take on Cape Elizabeth. Both teams with consistent success, have won multiple state titles, multiple, state finals, regional finals. They're always in the mix. So it's nice to see those crossovers happening. We also will be fortunate this season. We're going to get to play Foxcroft Academy, who we don't normally get to see, but they're in B North. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, Billy, why don't you tell us about your matches?
Yeah, so there'll be 2 matches I'm looking forward to, kind of seeing that will. One's going to be, a team we played last season. One's going to be one that we didn't get to see last year. So the first match against Skowhegan, well, not the first match in our schedule, but talking about we have Skowhegan coming down to Topsom this year to play us. Last year we went up there, and it was actually the opening match for their new courts, and we got the win 3-2. We had both of our doubles winning and the third singles winning last year. Lydia had a strong showing against Lauren Moore, but unfortunately lost in the tiebreaker at the end. But yeah, looks like she's coming back senior year. So I think, that squad, I feel like will probably be, pretty competitive with our team. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm also looking very forward to playing Brewer, who had a strong record last season. They had a couple players for singles who are pretty strong. So it'll be good to see them. It'll be a long trip up to Brewer, but I think those are going to be 2 big matchups for our team to see, like an unknown and then team we played last year, and try to see if we can get another win again.
Nice. And then also out of your area, we've talked about them a bunch already, but Brunswick versus Camden, always a barn burner. Last year, Camden took both during the regular season and then won in the A North final. 2 years ago, Brunswick beat Camden in some really tight matches. It's a rivalry, but I think it's a rivalry where the coaches respect each other, the players respect each other. Everybody seems to enjoy those matchups. So I expect that'll be a really good match.
Mhm.
And then Billy, thoughts on Hamden versus Bangor, the rivalry match?
Yeah, I was just throwing in there. Hamden, last year, pretty solid squad. They finished above us in the standings for Class A North, and I thought we would have a pretty good chance against them, but we ended up losing 5-0. We did have to move our lineup around because some players were missing, but still, for this season, their top two are gone. We talked about Caitlin Adams now. Probably moving up in the ladder to number one. So it'll be kind of seeing what the depth will be behind at Hampton to see if there's going to be a lot of pretty solid players or pretty young, inexperienced there. And then against Bangor, we went up there last year. Um, and we did sneak out a win because they didn't have their full lineup. And there was a lot of young players on that roster too. So it'll be interesting to see. I think both are kind of unknown commodities out there for those squads.
Nice. All right, so last thing before we stop, we're gonna make some kind of predictions, not nothing too crazy. We're gonna predict our semifinalists for state singles, and this is of course assuming everyone here plays. We end up running into things like prom or AP testing, SAT testing. Spring is a tough time to be coaching a sport, or to be a junior or senior athlete. All right, so Billy, why don't you tell us what you think our 4 girls semifinalists will be?
I can come up with 3. The fourth one will be tough, but so I think I'll have to go with Kira. I think she'll push through, make it to the top 4 this year. I think Molly's going to be right back in there in the mix, so I think she'll be back there in the top 4. And then, of course, Sophia Kirchev, the winner from last year. I mean, she's got to be, the favorite again going into the season. And then 4, there's going to be a lot of, I don't know. Let's see your top 4 and see if it's pretty similar.
See mine? Yeah, yeah. I do have those 3 on my list as well. I mean, Sophia had a good run last year, managed to push through, even though she was sick during the tail end of the tournament. She's just a tough competitor. I don't see anyone being able to take her down before the semis, but I'm sure a lot of players will try. Kira, had that ACL tear last year, but healed up. Seems to be playing really well. Playing a tournament right now. Playing against former Gardner standout Haley Peacock, former semifinalists in the state singles tournament as well. Playing her in the final either today or tomorrow. So I'll be interested to see how that turns out. Molly, hard to bet against Molly. Very very athletic grinder, can stay out on the court all day. Made the final last year. I suspect she'll be at least in the semis again. And then my 4th pick, I'm going to go with Lilia Root out of Thornton. Made, I think, the round of 16 last year, but it might have been deeper. I'm gonna do a quick side check here. Let's see. Yeah, ended up going down in the round of 16 to eventual semifinals Laura Chapman out of Booth Bay. But she has been putting a lot of time in the off season, has some good wins. Got to see her play at the Clam Fest actually this year. Played against, I want to say one of my own. Yeah, she played against one of my players from Colby, along with Caitlin Cass out of, I guess, formerly Lincoln Academy and Conn College. So had a tough one there, but she's been playing really well in singles. Beat Zoe Castrucci in a tournament down in Portland back over the summer. So she'll be one I expect to be in there as well. All right.
Yeah,
Billy, any
Yes, the same list essentially.
Yeah. And I do think, despite those being my projected four, I do think there are plenty of players in that 4+ UTR range who could you know, make a match out of anything. So
Yep.
um, I do think those are most likely four, depending on how the seeds fall, of course. But I don't think anyone there is, invincible. And I do think, because if we played tournaments on paper, right, what's the point? So some upsets, I imagine, but we'll see. We'll see when the tournament is played.
Mm-hmm.
Any other closing thoughts on what we've talked about? Anything we've missed?
Can't think of anything other than future proposals or suggestions for a singles tournament, maybe later
Yeah,
in the year. Or
yeah. That'd be interesting. I know that's been a topic of conversation in the past, of maybe moving the singles tournament to the end of the season instead of the middle, which some states do. Historically, I think there's been pushback because a lot of players leave at the conclusion of the season, and if we have a lot of international students, they tend to leave. Right as soon as school's done, they're gone.
right.
But we'll see. Maybe more conversations to be had about that. Um, Ideally, we'll reconvene, you and I, and maybe Josh out of Madison, and do a little midseason update. But I will post players to watch, and I'll post kind of our top players by UTR. So if you are tired of listening to us talk, or would rather just look at those will be up and posted when I post this as well. All right. Well, Billy, thanks for doing that with me. I will stop the recording now.